drink, piti leading to passaddhi, which is a tranquility of body and mind, leading to sukha, ease, happiness, which allows the body or the mind to settle and unify into samadhi. The still mind sees clearly, it's powerful, and samadhi leads to yatabhutam jnanadasanam, knowledge and vision of things as they are, which leads to dispassion, stepping away, turning away, stopping feeding off of the things of the world, which leads to viraga, dispassion, and finally from viraga to vimutti, or liberation, release. And yet it all starts with pamojja, just a sense of well-being. And Longpo Pasano, many of you will know this quote. He often says, we have it all backwards. We think once we get our samadhi together, we'll be happy. But it's actually, once we're happy, our samadhi will come together. And the two work in tandem, but to raise up this quality of well-being, of friendliness, of happiness, of joy, or even a lighter quality than joy. Joy can be a lot to ask of ourselves sometimes, but just a sense of well-being as a ground upon which to place our meditation and our practice in general is significant. And it is the reason why we centered this retreat around that quality, pamojja. And it's also why, as we step into this period of silence, of meditation, it's important to continually come back to that sense of well-being, of friendliness, of lightness of heart. When you find yourself getting too tight, stressed, when things begin to come up, just smile inside of your mouth a little bit. Just have a sense of humor about yourself. We're all a bit neurotic, a bit strange. We're trying our best. We're sitting in a gym together. And yet, this is how we are. And just be friendly and kind to yourself throughout this retreat. The other aspect, though, and you won't have to remember that whole Pamojja cascade, but rather, one thing we did want to model the retreat around was just the doorways the Buddha gives into that sense of well-being, and there's numerous. The first we spoke of yesterday as a sense of sada, faith, confidence. But today, the doorway to Pamojja, the pathway to the sense of well-being that we want to do foreground is dana, giving. And many of you will know this quality. It's usually spoken about in the obvious ways of giving with our hands to those around us. It's accessible, it's concrete. It's the first paramita, or spiritual perfection, listed. And yet it's a path all the way to, it's a path and a quality we cultivate all the way to liberation and after. Although it's the first paramita, or spiritual perfection, listed in the list of 10 that are given, it's also the last that the Buddha in the Jataka tales was said to have completed, to perfected. So the first and the last in some sense. And it's one that Buddha really placed great emphasis on. Many of you will know this quote where he said, "If beings knew as I knew the results of giving, they never would eat without first having given. Not even if it was their last and final mouthful. They would not eat without first having given, if there were someone to give it to. But because beings do not know, as I know, the results of giving, they eat without having given. Stinginess overcomes their minds." And in the teachings, he encourages the monks, when they finish their meal, if they have even a few grains of rice left in their bowl, to, as they empty it into the bushes or into the grass, to make the determination, may small beings benefit, may they be fed by this grain, these grains of rice. Even that much giving, intention towards giving, the Buddha said, was a great benefit. So, on retreat especially, we may not have the opportunity or the chances to do any great acts of giving, but the small acts are meaningful. Everything in Buddhism is about intention. And the small acts you do day to day here, the yogi chores, the way you might let someone step in front of you in line, the kind smile you might offer, these are, or can be, acts of giving, of dana, and they can be a pathway to joy. Similarly, there's a sutta where the Buddha says, Venerable Sariputta, let your faculties be tranquil, let your mind be tranquil, let your bodily actions be tranquil, let your verbal actions be tranquil. Thinking, just by this tranquility, I will give a gift to my companions in the holy life. So can you really consider this, that as practitioners, you're making artwork of your life, you're making your life into a work of art. How beautiful can your deportment be, and can you think of that beauty, of that grace, as a gift to those around you? How quietly can you walk through the hall? How quietly can you bend to your cushion? How gracefully can you open the door for the person next to you? Can you think of mindfulness not as some sort of dry inhabiting of your body this period, but actually as bringing grace and beauty and a sense of softness and quietness to all your actions for these days, and afterwards moving into the world as well. There's a practitioner I know who made the determination to, it helps because his partner was very sensitive to sound and got quite annoyed when he did anything too noisily, but his determination was to try to move and take things out of the cupboards and close doors and do everything as quietly as he could. And this is a gift, and also this is a practice of mindfulness. So tranquility in action, faculties, body, and speech. Can this be your gift for this retreat? And can you, with each of these givings, can you bring it internally as well? Can it not just be giving this tranquility or this grace of movement externally to those around you, but when you talk to yourself in your meditation, can you notice the harsh tone that invades the mind, the self-recrimination, the subtle aversion that manifests when it's you on the chopping block and not another? And can you bring that same sense of giving to yourself? Can you turn your heart towards that one great blind spot so many good people have, which is themselves? And it's one of the great tragedies in modern practice circles, and you see this constantly when you do interviews and retreats. It's just the best people, the kindest people are so unkind and brutal to one person, and that's themselves. So that great blind spot, can you make a practice of giving to that, of giving kindness to that, a sense of humor to that, of lightness to that? And that might mean imagining yourself as a child. Father Zosima in the Brothers Karamazov said you should treat all people as if they were children, or some as if they were patients in a hospital. And can we really think of each other like that? We're all just children wandering around clumsily, and some of us are just sick patients in the ward. And can we think of ourselves that way too? We're coming here raw and bruised, and can we hold ourselves with kindness through that? there are a few concrete ways the Buddha speaks about giving and about harmony. And one of the most wonderful lists is called the 6 Principles of Communal Harmony, which some of you might know. But the first 3 are: one cultivates acts of loving kindness in bodily acts of loving kindness towards one's fellows, both to their faces and in private, in public and in private. One cultivates acts of loving kindness in speech to one's companions in public and in private. And one cultivates loving kindness in acts of mind towards one's companions in public and in private. And I don't really know what public means in that case, but I think it means wherever you are, with them or without, with people or away from them, the mental attitude remains one of goodwill. And these 3 are so significant to really bring to the fore. How can we care for those in bodily acts of loving kindness? And this can come down to, in our daily lives, simple things such as just giving. There's a practice called the Saraniya practice in Sri Lanka of not having given before one eats. But also caring for those who are sick. There's a wonderful tale where the Buddha and Venerable Ananda are walking through the monastery, and they come to a monk covered in his own fluids and vomit, left there by the other monastics, and the Buddha and Venerable Ananda take him in and clean him and care for him. And the Buddha says, "Monks, if you care for one of your own who is sick, it's as if you care for me." So this is an act of loving kindness. Can we really care for those who are ill in our lives? And then when we're on retreat like this, where maybe there aren't as many chances to give in such explicit ways, can we make much of those small chances? Can we really carefully and lovingly go about the yogi chore? Can we clean up a little bit extra? Are there any bits of another person's duty which we can take? Can we pull out the chair for someone, hold open the door for another? These little acts of kindness are not insignificant. If we see something on the ground, a piece of trash, can we clean it up that we don't have to? And then can we be kind to ourselves in terms of bodily acts? And that can mean, for example, when one comes to retreat, often there's a backlog of tiredness or disappointment. There's a certain backlog, and in this case, maybe it's okay to take a little bit of extra rest in the middle of the day after a meditation. Or maybe it's okay when that competitive mind comes up after a sit where you decide you want to sit through another 45 minutes just to show the person next to you what a good meditator you are. Maybe it's okay to get up and give yourself some walking meditation and assume people won't judge you, but that maybe you're just coming to the retreat after a long time of not sitting for this long. And is it okay to treat yourself with a sense of softness in that way? Likewise with speech. Can we speak to ourselves kindly, to others kindly, softly? Likewise with thought. Can we really try to give charity and the benefit of the doubt to those around us, to ourselves? Can we remember that we're doing the best we can? That we're doing something extremely rare and extremely hard by coming here and sitting quietly with ourselves, with our difficulties, with our hearts. They did an experiment where they placed people in a room with a machine that could deliver painful electric shocks for 20 minutes, and the one instruction was that they could not fall asleep. And within 20 minutes, a good portion of the people just started shocking themselves to get out of the boredom of being in the room alone. So that's the culture we're coming from, is it's more preferable to administer painful electric shocks to oneself than just to sit quietly. And here you all are for 5 days, sitting for 10, 8, 12 hours a day. So have some sympathy for yourself in that. And also, sometimes you have to lean into the wind in this a bit. Because while you're here, you have a chance to give that kindness in mind, not just to yourself, not just to those sitting around you, but to those who are not here. So, can you not just try to think of them kindly, but can you really acknowledge that the people who are the most difficult in our lives, or the people that are annoying us, sitting next to us, the person breathing too loudly, these are the catalysts for our practice, and they are a gift in that sense. These are the means by which we learn that we don't have to believe our thoughts, how we learn to endure through agitation, through difficulty, and to see that on the other end of that train of thought, of that belief, there's a sense of peace in letting go, and that we don't have to, we're bigger than that thought, that we can hold it and not react, and that on the other end of that, there's a sense of goodwill and well-being available. So those that are difficult around us, when we give them the benefit of the doubt, when we maintain acts of loving kindness in thought towards them, often it's just remembering that these difficult people are exactly our path. They are teachers to us. And often that act of loving kindness towards ourselves is when an annoyance comes up, or when an aversive memory comes up, a person we've gone over an argument with again and again in our minds, instead of trying to spread metta, loving kindness to them, turning it back to ourselves and just realizing that we're the ones who need metta in that moment. Because it really hurts to be angry. It doesn't really matter who you're spreading the loving kindness to. The point is to have metta. So spread it to yourself. Just hold yourself in that place of difficulty. What does it feel like for this to come up? And it can be really useful to bring this sense of loving kindness, of giving, because this is a way of giving. It is dana. And it is a route to well-being, even through difficulty. With regard to the hindrances that will come up, sensual desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness, doubt. Instead of buying into them, these hindrances, following the sensual desire, following the aversive state, following the doubt, instead of admonishing yourself for getting caught in them time and again, can you instead, especially with the really difficult, persistent ones, with a lot of these hindrances, it's enough to recognize them and let go of them and return to your object of meditation. But with some, can you picture them, the really persistent ones, as a child or a version of yourself come to your door, and let them, if they're already there, let them in, invite them in, give them a cup of cocoa, and just let them be seen. You don't have to engage in conversation with them, you don't have to get sidetracked, but just a sense of care, of giving. There are more qualities of these communal harmony. There's sharing what one receives with one's fellows. There's abiding with a sense of morality and giving the gift of fearlessness to those around us by keeping good precepts, which we're all hopefully doing. There's a sense of sharing right view, a shared goal, which we're all implicitly doing to some extent by the very fact that we're here on a retreat. But perhaps the most useful aspect of dana to think of in terms of a meditation retreat right now is a sense of relinquishment and of our practice as one of devotional giving, where that great blind spot we have of being kind to so many except ourselves, one way around it is to step back from the perspective we usually take from a central nucleus of perceiver, of actor, and to step back into a wider spaciousness of awareness and heart. And often one really needs a skillful means to do this. So it might be just enough to feel that your awareness is actually not constrained to the body. It's a wide cloud around you. Or how Long Porsumedo says when he does walking meditation, it's not so much that you are walking through the world, or that you are in the world so much as, or the world, the body is, it's not so much that awareness is in the body, so much as that the body is in awareness, expanding into this spaciousness. Or it may help to bring up this quality of relinquishing all these patterns, all these mechanics of the self to the Buddha, to the Dhamma, to the Sangha. Just relinquish them as a gift. Here, I don't need these now. These are yours. And if you need to bow to do that, then that's fine. And this can be especially useful for really deep patterns of suffering. Can you relinquish them to the Buddha? Can you realize that some patterns you don't get to work on, quote unquote, but rather that sort of suffering sometimes just works on you. You can kind of bow to it and let it wash over you and trust that it will fade, but also that sometimes that humility that comes from just bowing to a certain level of dukkha and saying, this is suffering, this is the human state, works on you in a gentling way. Bodies connect through pleasure. Hearts often connect through pain. Our route to others' hearts is often through our own pain and suffering. And when you get in touch with that, when you humble yourself to that, when you open to that, you touch something far greater than yourself. So maybe that's how you step back and relinquish and give up this sense of self into a wider space of awareness. Or sometimes it's enough to really say, I give all this to you, Buddha. If the word God resonates with you, you can say, I give this to you, God. I relinquish, I surrender to you, God. If a certain deity in the Tibetan pantheon is especially meaningful to you, Tara, Avalokiteshvara, Guanyin, you can say, I give this to you, Guanyin, or love. And when we asked Longpo Anand, my teacher, about Guanyin, he said it's Guanyin, these bodhisattvas, they're an aspect, a quality, a way of remembering a part of the mind of awakening, that part that resonates with love, with care. So all these words, God, even the word Buddha, or Guanyin, in some sense they are just skillful means. But if you can say, let me relinquish this, all this selfing, all this technique, all these things I'm going through, to you, and just invoke that sense of bright spaciousness holding you. And instead of trying to do a technique for a second or for a long time, just allow something greater to work on you and have faith that it will. Step into a bright awareness, catalyze it, and give up that sense of self. And this is relinquishment. This is calming. But in some sense, it's also dana. It's giving. And it's a really useful thing to keep in mind during a long retreat, is sometimes the best you can do is just let go and trust that there will be something bright and wide to catch you. So I wish you all the best in that endeavor for these days.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu,
So a few things. For those who haven't seen, perhaps this has already been announced, there's a sign up for group interviews on the bulletin board. There will be 2 sessions a day. They'll be held over in the interview room over yonder, near the eating hall. Is that correct, Jean? Yes.
It's a little cabin, has a blue door. Yeah.
Cabin with the blue door. So it'll be held there for now, so 9:45 for the next 45 minutes, and also there will be another session at 3 o'clock after the Dhamma talk in the afternoon. And those will each last for 45 minutes. There's a sign-up sheet for the days, the current days, and the next days up on the bulletin board. So at the end of today, today's will be taken down, and the next days will be put up, and so on and so forth. Just to make sure there's room, we encourage you kind of maybe wait to sign up for multiples. So you can sign up for one and then wait a little bit, and then you can sign up for another maybe in a day or two. Or if something's urgent, then obviously feel free to sign up. There is room. And it's just a chance to gather and talk through practice with a bit more intimacy. I think in general, on the bulletin board, if people have any notes that they would like to write down to anyone else, to the managers, maybe we encourage you not so much to write towards others in the hall, unless it's necessary, but to the managers or to Ajahn Kovila or myself, just write a note and list who it's for and put it on the bulletin board, and we'll try to keep an eye out for those. And finally, these 45-minute sections, I know it says sit and walk, but what we'll actually do is we just want to trust you all with your practice, basically. So we do encourage people to only enter or exit the hall on those 45-minute junctures, but you don't actually have to sit when it says sit, and you don't have to walk when it says walk. If you are in the hall, you can sit here or walk up on the balcony quietly. And if you are outside during the sit or walk session, it doesn't matter. You can walk meditation outside or below the eating hall. There's a great room that's a bit warmer. And then walk for meditation for as long as you want. And then if you sort of get to a point of calm, you can just sit down. But then on the 45-minute mark, that's when you can come back in or exchange location, just so we don't have people going in and out constantly. And because we're starting this group practice discussion a little bit late, maybe we'll have the 10:30 marker where we'd usually be transitioning after this next 45-minute session. Maybe that'll be a little looser. We might have people come in around 10:35 or something, just so we can actually make room for the interviews. Yeah. Say that again. Yeah, will there be about the 10 minutes, or 10 minutes you said? Okay, for each one, great. So at the 10-minute mark ahead of it, there will be about, that's good. Did I forget anything? Okay, Jean? Okay, great, super. So if you've signed up for the 9:45 session group discussion, we'll just meet over there. Everyone else is welcome to continue sitting, to walk, and then at about 10:30, feel free to come in, go out, etc. And we'll all be here. I think that's about it. Those who want to come back, those who don't want to